Hey, so I wanted to make a quick video on the skill trees and what I did as a new player and why I made those decisions, how I feel about it in a very short form manner. The situation with me is I did not really play PoE 1. I think I played it on launch for like a little bit, and that's it. I'm essentially a new player of PoE 2, so I wanted to go ahead and give my impressions of it. I'm not using any build guides or anything like that, so this definitely is not a guide, and it's probably going to be, whatever builds you see here are probably going to be bad. They're still very early. I've just beaten Act 1 with each character. That's how I'm playing. I just beat Act 1 with a character, move to the next character, and beat Act 1 with it. So I've sampled all the skill trees that are currently in the game. So for Sorceress, they have a pretty straightforward start. I felt I wasn't particularly confused by where to go immediately. Now this skill tree is big and it has a lot of options, but realistically I just hyper focused on where I go next. That was like my main goal here. I started off this build by going down the damage tree because I figured right at the beginning of the game I probably don't have to get tankiness first. I can just go ahead and get some damage. I believe I either went here or went all the way down to Path of Flame to get more damage. I'm doing a Fire Sorceress. My build's probably questionable, but these are the fire spells that I have access to at this point. I don't think I'm going to keep using Incinerate. I'll probably find something else. But now I gotta level up and complete more of the game for that. Once I got through to here, I believe that's when I went ahead and got some more tankiness. My energy shield felt kind of small, so I wanted to get a little bit more of that. And then I basically, and this is true for most of these skill trees, I didn't know where exactly to go next. This was pretty obvious up to here and up to here. But where do I go next? Because you can see there's a lot of different paths to go. Well, I just looked at what was close by. I looked over here at these spirals. Not really anything I want. Over here, this looks like defenses, so that could be cool. Up this way is crit chance, which I think is also probably pretty good. Up here was increased mana. I didn't feel like I needed more mana regeneration or mana, so I said, nah, I probably don't need that. This is also defenses. Over here we had more defenses. Lots of defenses around this tree. Some more crit stuff. Over here is more damage for reduced cast speed. I haven't really felt like I needed cast speed that much, so I definitely considered it. Over here I see that there's fire, ice, and lightning again, so this caught my eye. Penetrating fire resistance, that sounds pretty good. And then I also looked at this one, and it said, oh, you do more damage against things that are affected by elements. Well, I'm igniting everything. So I said, okay, well, let's do this one. This sounds good. You know, more damage against anybody who's affected by an element. Well, since everybody's always affected by elements, let's do this one. And that was pretty much my logic for Sorceress. Okay, so next up would have been Ranger, is the next character that I played. For this character, I will admit, I was feeling pretty good about my offenses. I decided to do Poison Ranger. I've got some poison stuff over here. And I felt pretty confident with my survivability on Ranger, so I went a lot less into defenses than on Sorcerers. I have the escape shot, which slows and moves me out of enemies, so I didn't feel like I was getting surrounded as easy, all of that stuff. But anyway, I basically went down the damage tree again. This is also pretty straightforward, just like in Sorceress. They do have a little bit of crossover here. This improves your flasks, that is your health and mana flasks. You can also get more accuracy rating. I'm not exactly sure how important accuracy rating is yet, because I haven't really noticed myself missing a ton, and so I've only kind of casually gotten some accuracy rating. I went down this way to get this pierce because I felt like that would be useful to be able to pierce enemies sometimes. I didn't mention this on Sorceress, but I do want to talk about these stat nodes. So far, on Sorceress I had strength nodes, and on this character I have an intelligence and then some strength nodes. I've been using these at this point, like early in the game, to essentially allow me to put in whatever support gems that I want, that I feel like would be best for my build. I don't know in the long run if that's a good idea or not. I guess we'll see once we get there. After I did this path, I decided I was just going to go straight over here. I looked around again at what was around and what I could get. I figured that I didn't feel like I really needed defenses on my ranger so much. I felt really safe on this character compared to Sorceress. So I said, okay, I'll dip into the damage over here first. And so since I was doing poison, I saw over here was crippling toxins, which increases poison damage and everything. So I went ahead and went for that. And then after that, nearby, I saw this evasion section. So I was like, okay, time to get some defenses, because I like building, you know, damage and defenses ideally, not just one or the other. And that was pretty much it for Ranger. Again, I felt a lot safer on this character, so I didn't get defenses until late, as compared to Sorceress. Okay, next up is Mercenary, and real quick, I do want to say, I love the Mercenary skill tree art. Like this art, I love this art, man. It's very dynamic. You can see this sort of angled alleyway or curved alleyway behind him. He's got 1 foot forward, torso turned to the side, with the crossbow, the body strewn about. Like, this art's great. I love the Mercenaries art. All the art is good. It's just this one's so dynamic, man. Anyway. Okay, so Mercenary is a little different with its skill tree, because similar to Ranger, it kind of crosses over here, and it also crosses over up here. I would say that with this one, it was interesting because this is more straightforward defense, and so what I did was I got some damage, like usual, just to start off. And once I got here, I said, okay, well, I want some defenses too. And the reason is because with Mercenary, right now I'm just doing a freeze into fragmentation bolt kind of deal. Mercenary is actually, it's ranged, but I've been playing it up close and personal. I've been getting close and, you know, blasting with fragmentation rounds, which is like a close range attack. So Mercenary's been a lot more up close and personal than the other 2 characters I had played up until this point. And so I wanted to get defenses early. So once I got down to here, I immediately went over into this to get armor and evasion. This is also some defense. And then I looked around. Attack speed sounded interesting, but really it's reload speed that holds me back more. So unless I don't know if I'm going to find something for reload speed. But I looked around. Of course, these things, more ailments inflicted. If you hold Alt, you can mouse over this stuff, by the way. If you weren't aware of that, I was not aware of that for a long time, actually. But ailments does include all of these. The elemental ailments just doesn't include bleeding and poison, is my understanding. So I thought, okay, that's cool, but I'm not inflicting any ailments really. Just freeze, and I haven't felt like the need to increase that. And then we had increased area effect, which I think this would be good, because I'm using because the fragmentation rounds, more area could be good. Projectile damage and everything, this is just straightforward more damage, so that's cool. I felt like at the time my damage was pretty good, so I wanted to get something that was more defensive. I was still looking around, seeing what I wanted to do. This is dual wielding, but the crossbows are two-handed, so I was looking around and I found this two-handed tree, and it shows, if I hold shift, that it affects crossbow. Right? Like, it shows that it affects crossbow. Yeah, I don't know if there's another node that I don't have that says two-handed, but basically, when I had moused over it, hold shift, it shows that it affects it. So I assume that crossbows count as two-handed weapons. That does not have a little thing I can mouse over. So I decided I would just go down regenerate life tree here. I got an intelligence again so that I could do a support gem. And then I just got damage two-handed weapons and overwhelm. And then I'll probably pick up these two since they're right there. And then I don't know where I'm going to go with mercenary. The difference between this class was definitely that even though it's ranged, I was closer to the enemy. So I just wanted to dip into defenses like faster on this one. Okay. So for Witch. Witch has a lot going on. So I mentioned before with mercenary, it was different because it was ranged and I had to get up, but I still had to get up close and personal for the build I was doing. And maybe for all mercenary builds, I don't know. I'm still very early in the game. But for Witch, they have a lot going on. Because if you look at their tree, it looks similar to the Sorceress tree, where they've got the two branches. And you've got, this is, crit chance and physical damage, which would be for bone stuff. You've got minion stuff, and you've got chaos stuff. Now, I wanted to do Chaos Witch because I like the idea of the whole, spreading plague thing. That sounds cool. But here's spell damage and minion damage. But then, not only do you have Witch's tankiness, right, just like Sorceress has their, energy shield tankiness, but also you have minions that can tank for you. Except for bosses. Bosses seem to just mostly ignore the minions. But, at least for the normal enemies, your minions can also be summoned and tank. So, what I was doing was, and I guess I gotta kind of close this to show here, but I have skeleton warriors. Okay, I've got some skeleton warriors. We've got a decent amount of them, and what I decided to do was immediately I went down the damage tree a little bit, but instead of getting more spell damage, I actually went for minion health to get a little bit more tankiness through my minions, and then I kind of went up this way to get the chaos damage. At this point, honestly, the chaos damage was quite good because the way it works is that it ramps up. When something dies and has contagion on it, it jumps to another enemy and gets stronger up to a point. So I felt like my damage was pretty good as long as I could get something to die. Everything else around it pretty much died. This build started off pretty weak on bosses, but once I got to the next level of spells and got Essence Train, it got much stronger on bosses. So I basically felt, okay, I'm good. Let me just go into defenses. So I just went ahead and started from here. And I went over to defense. I did not feel like I needed cast speed or mana regen. Again, just like with Sorceress, so far I haven't really needed these, so I haven't spec'd into them. I went ahead and got more energy shield. I had dipped into this strength node for some gem, it seems. Again, very similar to the Sorceress tree. You've got the little element thing up here from back in Sorceress. You've got the penetration of elements from Sorceress, the energy shield. And there's also the spirals over here. And so I was looking around to see what I wanted to do. But for this character, I was actually particularly interested in this way up here. See, here's the spell damage for cast speed thing again from Sorceress. But I was actually pretty interested in this up here. So, with the way that my build went, I was basically sacrificing minion health to empower this spell. And once the minions got to a certain health, they would actually explode and do damage. So I was essentially killing my minions over and over again. I'm not sure if I want to keep doing that or if I just want them to stay alive to tank for me. But either way, I wanted to increase their maximum life because the damage of that explosion that I was doing is based off of their max life. So that could be good. And also, if I just want them to stay alive to tank for me, well, this would still be good. Other than that, I was going to maybe swing by and get this Chaos Node because it's going to give me more damage whenever I feel like I need more damage. Again, strength and dex in these nodes for the purpose of support gems. Overall, I would say Witch definitely has a lot more going on with it. When I'm looking at the skill tree, there's a lot more to consider, because there's the Witch's tankiness, the Minion's tankiness, and damage of both minions and the Witch. She's got a lot more going on. I kind of feel like with the Witch, compared to the other characters, I feel like this is one of the characters where I kind of feel like if I pick anything, it'll be good. On Witch, I feel like she's got so much going on. I feel like this one's harder to screw up, but we'll see later. You know, some of these other ones I feel like I probably screwed up the build, or I will screw up the build. Witch feels like she has so much going on that I could probably make anything work. So far. But again, I'm just early in the game, we'll see. I just feel more confident on Witch just because everything seems to be benefiting her in this tree. Okay, and so now we get to the first melee class. There's been a lot of conversation about melee and, well, if it sucks or not, basically, like to play. I mean, is it fun? I actually had a pretty okay time with Monk. I do think melee is a little bit more difficult so far. Monk is the character that killed bosses the fastest for me. It also died the most times. So, now, I say that, and then if you look at my skill tree, I didn't get that much defenses on Monk either, so maybe that's my fault, but I felt like it was mostly the fact that I had to get in close. But we'll see. Regardless, Monk's skill tree is a little different. This one was probably the most daunting for me, because once you get to this point, there's a lot of stuff here, like right at the beginning of the tree. There's a lot of stuff that you can get, and honestly, all of it looks like it's useful. So what I wanted to do was essentially a lightning monk. That was pretty much my idea, is to do lightning. As soon as you start, you actually get skill speed instead of damage like the other characters, which makes you a little faster, and I think that's pretty important because, well, when I started out and I would use something like Falling Thunder, if I got hit during trying to do the animation, it could just interrupt it. So being faster seemed pretty useful. Then there's just damage or crit damage bonus. Early on in the game, I was like, well, I don't crit that much yet, so I was going to take this, but later on, there is a lot of crit stuff. So once I got to this point, like I said, this was a bit more daunting for me, I'm going to be honest. There's a lot of choice in the monk tree right off the bat. I thought, well, I want to do electric, so of course I want to get the shock stuff, right? But then also, a lot of the early stuff, like the bell and the palms and everything, might benefit from crit chance, as well as things like Tempest Flurry, Falling Thunder, whatever. The lightning stuff also probably benefits from crit, so I said, okay, well, maybe I should get crit as well. This is a lot of critical chance and a lot of damage if you've dealt a crit. And then there's also skill speed, and like I said before, I kind of want to attack faster because, well, I need to attack before they hit me and interrupt me. Or kill me, for that matter. So I said, okay, well, I kind of want skill speed too, but then also I need tankiness, and here's recover life on kill, and here's evasion energy shield, which is what the monk uses. So I ended up going through for Act 1, ended up getting the shock stuff and the crit stuff for damage, some evasion and maximum energy shield, some speed. I just kind of got a little bit of everything. This one's definitely like the most unclear to me where I want to go with it and what I want to do with it. I'm pretty sure I still want to do Lightning Monk. It's just that at this point in the game, so early, I've had to use the bell and palms a lot and everything, and basic attacks. And because it's melee, of course I want to get extra defenses. It's just this one was a little bit harder for me in general to decide where to go and what to take. Now maybe it's just that everything here is good and taking all of it's fine. I'm just worried that maybe I'm forgetting something for later. Also, I was using the... I forgot about this. I went up here to get the power charge because I was using Falling Thunder, which uses power charges. I went up here to get this. Honestly, I don't even know if I need this. Like, after... I went up here to try it to see if getting that one extra power charge was going to make this skill better. I don't know if it really made it better in a tangible way. At least not yet. But basically, Monk is a bit confusing. Killed bosses very fast. Probably because I only really spec'd into damage mostly. But yeah, it died a lot too. I'm hoping that I can figure something out for Monk in the future, because I like this character a lot. It's very fun to play, but I might be too stupid for it. Might be too stupid for a lot of these. Some may say that I'm built different, but only in the way that I was assembled incorrectly. Anyway, let's move on to the other melee. All right, and here we are with Warrior. So this is the other melee. This is an interesting one for me. So, I was a bit intimidated by Warrior because Monk being melee was definitely harder than the other classes so far. It was probably Warrior. Warrior probably had... With the way I built it, I feel like Warrior wasn't that bad. But honestly, I feel like either Warrior or Monk is the hardest for sure. And then maybe Mercenary, since at least for me, I was up close and personal with them. And then after that, the other characters weren't that bad. Being ranged character prevents you from having to deal with a lot of things. So for Warrior, I said I want to be a big wall of meat, okay? I want to be a wall of meat. I want to be tanky. So guess what I got? Tanky stuff. For this guy, I did start off with melee damage because I wanted to be able to kill something, right? And also because if you look, it has a similar kind of situation that Mercenary had, where you go down the damage tree and then it branches off into defenses. So I said, okay, I'll do the same thing I did with Mercenary. I got some damage. I decided to go for stun buildup instead of the melee damage nodes. And then I went down into some defensives, some life regeneration, and I said, you know what? I kind of like my health bar filling up really fast. So I went down here. You can see that I did Dex and Int for support gems. But since this tree, I went into these nodes like a lot earlier than the other skill trees. Later on, I just did like 3 strengths essentially. But anyway, once I got this intelligence node, I stopped by to get even more life regeneration and regenerate per second. This made me exceedingly tanky, to where I could just stand in. I could even just stand in blood puddles and everything, right? Very, very strong tankiness. But this character is definitely the slowest at killing bosses. Now that could be my fault for not speccing into damage very much. Or it could just be Warrior's a little slower. It could be both. Either way, I got some strength down here, and what I was gonna do is probably go down here to this the shield tree, because I'm using like a hammer and shield. Probably go down here, grab this like increased damage per chance to block more damage while you're holding a shield. That way I can grab defensives. Come down here. When I grab these defenses, they will also give me a little bit of offense. Maybe I'll do like bleeding or something. There's also I don't think there's much over here that I would need. There's also some stuff right here, like breaking armor and getting physical damage could also be good. But Warrior was interesting mostly because I just went full tank on it. I still felt like I had enough damage, but the actual boss fight of Act 1 definitely took the longest, and just in general boss fights took a while. But when it came to fighting the normal enemies, while it was a slight bit slower, I mean, I felt pretty good. Like, I felt pretty good with the tankiness. It was fun. It was slow, but I was a wall of meat, and it was fun. You know? It was very fun to use shield charge and just slam into things. I do think that in the future, from what I've seen so far, things are a lot harder for melee. There's a lot of effects in the game that leave a puddle on death, or the enemy has like an aura around them, or they like shoot out little projectiles that make circles on the ground, and if you're closer to them, it's more dangerous. I feel like melee is going to have more problems in the future. I'm probably going to still need to balance damage and tankiness, but man, I really do feel like if I didn't have this much tankiness, I do feel like I'd have a lot harder of a time. honestly. And I'm a bit worried for the future of my Beylace. Because again, I'm not that smart. I'm not using any build guides or anything. I probably can't make a good build, but we're going to find out. And if I make a bad build, at least it's something I made. If it sucks, it's something I made that sucks. So hey, whatever. All that matters is having fun. Anyway, that's pretty much the end of that. I will say that I have plans to make a Act 1 video where I just talk about my initial impressions as a new player for pretty much the entirety of Act 1. Still very new to content creation. This is probably a little bit of a busted video. That's okay. I'm just making them for fun. People wanted to know what new players are thinking about the game. I keep hearing people talk about, oh, I wonder, I think new players will think this, new players will think that. Well, I'm a new player, so here we go. I am a video gamer. I do not play a lot of ARPGs, in particular, but I mean, I've played a few. I mean, in the past, I played Diablo 2, Titan Quest. I've played Diablo 4. I played Diablo 3 a teeny tiny bit. You know, I'm not really an ARPG player, but I am a gamer. I've been gaming for a long time. So, I don't think I'm going to have the same experience as every new player, but hey, any input's probably helpful. There's been a crashing issue that a lot of people have been having, and I've also experienced that. I was able to finish Warrior, so I should be able to work on making like an Act 1 video talking about how I feel about the game in general, but I don't know if my game is going to stay stable. I was able to fix it with the Windows Defender exception for the shader files method that has been posted on the website by some people in the forums there. I don't want to say that is a solution or anything like that, because I don't know why it worked for me, but it worked for me. And a lot of other things in that thread didn't, and a lot of other things in that thread did work for people, and the exception thing didn't work for people. So I don't know how to fix it, but I did experience that problem. It did prevent me from playing the game for a few days until somebody suggested that. Hopefully I'll be able to keep playing, because the game's really fun. It's going to take me forever to get through Act 2 though, because I'm playing one character through the entire act and then moving to the next one. But hey, you know, whatever. Anyway, thanks for watching, and have a good one.